Hi, class. Welcome to Sir Searcher TV, where learning research is made easy. And now we are going to discuss perhaps one of the most important component of your research manuscript writing or your entire research as a whole, and that is your review of related literature. This particular section of the paper or activity, I would say, because some journals or some research reports don't really allot or dedicate a section for your RL. It's integrated usually in your introduction or background of the study and in your findings. But if we go to the basic approach wherein there is really a dedicated chapter for review related literature, perhaps this is the most difficult, tasky, and probably time consuming part of the research process. All right. Okay. Now, let us first define what is the RL or what is an RL. So basically, review of related literature is one major activity in your research that makes you examine or study again concepts or ideas related to your research that people managed to publish in books, journals, or other reading materials in the past. So in short, your review of related literature, from the name itself, review of related literature, we get or we try to look or read, no, or probably dig into the existing literature or the existing written works that might be related or connected to our study. And what is the purpose of that? Why do we need to look for literature, written works, or studies that might be connected to our current research? So this is in order for us to establish relevance, to create a context of the topic or the central theme of the research that is aligned with what is going on in the world or what has been tested, what has been studied, what has been done. Okay. Now, furthermore, all right, your RL or your review related literature provides us the opportunity to examine these concepts again that are related to our study. It is also a way to discover what other research in the area or in the context of your problem has been uncovered, because from here you'll be able to look or see studies that have similar goals or aims, and then trying to also to compare and contrast the results of the study. Okay. And then once you discover these um knowledge or topics, you'll be able to find a way on how you can actually summarize and analyze the current knowledge about a particular topic or inquiry. Okay. Now, it is also very important that your RL provides a connection of your research to the current conditions or situations of the world. So that means you have to look on the relevance, or how is your study connected, or how does your study stand with the existing knowledge that is already available or that is already being published. So it's essential that we establish that connection. Of course, we need also to familiarize ourselves with technical terms related to our study, because review related literature or your RL provides us with a more detailed contextualized definition of the terms that we'll be using. And finally, one of my most favorite purpose, or one of my, this is the thing that I like about the RL, because it gives us, or it provides justification of our proposed methodology. Knowing that quantitative research is replicable, or one of its major characteristic is its duplicity. It is it is just right to use your review related literature as your reference for your methods or for the tools that are might be available that you can adapt or you can modify. And perhaps you could also use your RL as your reference if you wanted to make a researcher crafted or researcher made instrument. Okay. Now, so in here, we'll be able to see how are we going to present and structure our review of related literature? So there are actually six ways on how we can present and structure our literature. The first one is chronological approach. So this is according to dates of the publication of your research. You could actually do several or different ways on how you can chronologically present your literature. You might start with from the past progressing to the present, or you could do a retrospective approach wherein you present what is current and then you trace it back to its origin. So regardless, it has to be logical. Number two is a findings theme or topic approach. I think this one is perhaps the most sensible approach because in here you're guided by an outline, and the outline is usually based on your specific research objectives that is anchored on your goal or on your problem. So when you do this approach, usually it's deductive. You start with the general and then you break it down into the specifics. It provides the reader, most especially, the opportunity to understand well the concept or the knowledge or the central idea of your study, because you arrange it in such a way that um they are going to learn about the topics, the elements, the dimensions, and the parts of your study um deductively. Okay, so usually the theme or topic approach is patterned from a deductive way of arranging or breaking down your topics. And then we also have here the canon, or should we say the classic studies. All right. So the canon or the classic studies, or this can be actually a standalone and a variation of different approaches as a peer subsection of either of them. And in here, your intention in a canonic review is to show how your research fits with the studies that can't be ignored. This kind of literature's review is always heavily evaluative and comparative, so you usually need to set out some explicit criteria drawn from your research question that allows you to discuss specific texts in some detail, and you also to need to make a clear connection with your study. One of the metaphors used for this kind of literature work is a tree where the trunk of the discipline is classic studies. Now, what's interesting about your canon or classic studies is that you're going to cluster or group together studies that have similar in themes or similar in results. So probably first presenting studies that speak the same findings, and then pivot into a different take or a different perspective of the concept or the topic where different findings are being presented. So that's how you're going to do the canon or classic studies. Now, the wheel and the pyramid are actually not the very typical structuring that we do, because um in the wheel-like review is to show the originality of your research stems from the ways in which you've brought together areas that are usually kept apart. So this bring together a clearly elaborated in the discussion of literatures where each formerly separate chunk is discussed in relation to your research interest. You need also to draw out the key contributions of each corpus of literatures and their relevance to your research. You also need to show very clearly the ways in which the various spokes work together, and you must show how the various spokes relates to and support the center of the wheel where there is the research is situated. So the idea here is that there is a central point wherein you hold together all the necessary elements of your literature that creates a big logical picture of how you're going to present that knowledge. Now, the pyramid, on the other hand, is to show how your research interest is shaped and framed by other events or practices like people or policies and etc. And they can be organized, start from the tip that is written from your specific topic already, and then move up and down through the relevant contextualizing literatures. More commonly, the pyramid is inverted and the review begins with a wider context, honing in even closer to your topic, and so on. So the thing about the pyramid is it's it's okay, imagine an inverted pyramid wherein you begin with a very wide scope of your topic and then you break it down into specifics. So a little bit similar to your topic approach, except that in here you're only um concentrating with the topics with a single topic, and then you go down to its specifics, right? Now, another is a country approach. Now, this kind of approach is interesting because in your review related literature, you don't just only look for relevance of your studies locally. You also have to establish whether your study is like relevant in the international scene or in the worldwide context. So for example, let's say if you're interested with competencies of nurses, for example, if that's the central theme, or you wanted to measure how competent nurses are. So you look for studies that explore a nursing competencies, not just only in the Philippines, but also into other countries, because that will give a cultural context to your study and its relevance. So usually we begin with a worldwide or international context, and then we um pan it we we pan it down into the local context. So national and then domestic or in your local literature. But usually it's hard to find literature locally. But remember that in your review related literature, you can include both published and unpublished works. So perhaps local studies that are unpublished can be used as reference for this type of approach. And then we also have the type of literature review. So remember that RL or literature is not just only with studies. We can also include concepts and not necessarily study findings from various authors or from organizations. So in here, what we do is we usually um, break it down or separate our type of literature review with into either conceptual review, which is a theoretical view that examines various topics. So really more in the discussion of the concept. Okay, so you get knowledge or information from books, encyclopedias, journals, etc., or any reliable websites explaining or describing or expounding on your topics or on your elements dimensions or sub variables. While the other type of literature reviews, of course, your survey of research articles. So in here, you're going to gather related studies, talk about the goal, the methods, the findings, and its implication. So these are the two types of your literature. Then also we have the approaches in your RL. Now, depending on what type of research you are conducting, you can apply either of these approach. Now, usually for qualitative research, since it's very flexible, the nature of quality research is so flexible, um, we could just go on with a traditional review, meaning there is no exact form or structure that you follow. It's primarily on the researchers or the proponent's preference and how he or she is going to arrange or organize her literature. But if you are doing a quantitative research, then a systematic review is very much appropriate. So this is known as a question-driven methodology because you structure your review-related literature according to your objectives. So you anchor it first with your journal goal, and then you arrange or you structure your literature layout depending on how you also presented your specific objectives in the study. Now, so just a quick overview of how you're going to conduct a systematic review. So as what I've said, this is a question-driven methodology. So we begin, of course, with clarifying your research question. So be, taking reference from my previous videos, it's always important that we have a strong, solid research question or goal because every part of your research study is anchored on your research question. So if your question is not tangible, your question is not solid, or your question is not clear, you expect that the rest of the paper will also um you know be chaotic, or you will not be able to really achieve what you really want, or could have a cohesive report. Okay, then you plan the search based on the research questions. So in here, you're going to identify which topics, okay, that you're going to use. In planning for your search base, you are now going to identify your sources, especially that you have already idea of some of the conceptual literature and related studies that you will look. So it's important that you um, make an outline, okay, of how you're going to uh, arrange, or how you're going to search for your literature. Then the third step is the actual search for your literature. This is already when you don't just only limit your literature search via web. You could go to universities for local literature, or even libraries where you could source out from grad and undergrad thesis or dissertations. Then establish a value criteria of your literature, and then evaluating quality. So from here, what you're going to do is you're going to sift the literature that you have searched, and then appraise them whether they are first relevant, second timely, meaning not very old. It was published at least 5 years, not older than 5 years. And then if it's peer reviewed, or it is sourced from a reliable journal host or a website, that's how you're going to appraise and establish value and quality of your study. So do not include those searches from Wikipedia or from any websites that you could actually just edit out the information. So it has to be coming from reliable sources. And then the last, of course, will be summarizing your knowledge, getting the most essential parts of your search, and then organizing it into uh, organizing it according to the preference, and based from the various or the different organizing approaches or styles. Now, I will be sharing here. Okay, so these are really very interesting tips on how you can optimize or maximize your literature search. Okay, so let's take a look at some of these important tips. And on my next video, I'll be showing how exactly you're going to do these searches, and some other important guide on, optimizing your web search for your RL. So as a novice or a beginning researcher, Google Scholar is always your friend. So you could go here. This is the most basic, and probably the first and the simplest way on how you could find for literature, because Google Scholar is uniquely curated for scholarly articles. So this is where we go. However, if you're feeling more advanced, there are other sites and web hosts with most up-to-date and reliable literature. So I'll be sharing with you in a while. And then, of course, because you're doing the web for your literature search, be smart with the use of your keywords. So keywords are the star. Okay, you have to know exactly what you are searching for, because when you do web search for literature in the web, they are looking for your search results are primarily based on the keywords that you have encoded, or if not exactly the keyword, at least similar or synonymous to the keywords you have typed in or encoded. So it's important that you have to identify your keywords properly. Then I will teach you later that we could also do the Boolean strategy. I'm going to tell you more about it. This would either expand, limit, focus, or direct your search based on the set criteria, and to what extent the results you wanted to have. Okay. Now, this is, or I will be sharing with you some useful sites for your RL search. So ScienceDirect.com is very rich with published studies, not only science related, but sometimes there are also humanities and arts or liberal arts references in Science Direct. Okay, then we also have here your DOAJ. I love DOAJ. I've been using DOAJ before, and it has a lot of good studies as well. Okay. So you can pause the video and screenshot. You could I will be sharing this one to the link down below so that you could click on it right away. And also these other sites like Open Library, Springer, WorldCat, and even academic research. But anyways, when you do your Google Scholar, it will lead you to different web hosts that are reliable, and you could bookmark them on your web page so that you can go back and search for literature specifically on that web host or that site where you find your literature. All right. Okay. Now, this is what I was talking earlier about the Boolean strategy. So, the Boolean searching strategies use certain keywords to limit and focus one's online search of a certain topic. And these are the following strategies that you can use. So, basically, when I say Boolean strategy, we use words. So, here we have and, or, not, and your quotation mark. Now, if you're going to use and in your search, it expands your search, meaning it will give you results that contain both the keywords you connect with the word and. So, for example, university and colleges. So that means um, search that include both university and colleges will be included in your results. Or we'll also have I'm sorry. And I mean will limit your okay, and will limit your search or will expand because and means the search should have both keywords in the results. Okay? So if you use the word and as a boolean strategy in your search strategy, it will limit or it will only specify your results having both terms. Okay, encoded. But if you're going to use or, this will expand your result. That means university or colleges. So some results might um, come up with only university or other results colleges. Okay, so it's either of them. And then you also have not. So not will also limit. So for example, you don't want to include colleges in your search, so you put there university and not colleges. So all search that has college will be removed or will be taken out from your results. Quotation marks, on the other hand, will have a specific phrase. So, for example, top Philippine University. So, this is a little bit similar to your Boolean strategy, but here, if you wanted really to be very specific, you can actually use the quotation mark, and this would lead you to search results that have exactly those words in their articles. So try Boolean strategy, guys. It's really interesting. It's fast, it's convenient, and it's easy to remember. No special software requirements, just attachment of words in your keywords, okay, in your search results. All right. Now, okay, so we are done with how you're going to optimize your web search. Okay, I will have a separate tutorial with all of these, especially on screen, so that you'll be able to see how it works. But anyway, once you already have all your materials, all the literature that you have appraised and evaluated for quality and relevance, it's time for you to write and organize your literature search. Now, remember, it has all to be original. That means plagiarism is not a thing of the RL. Okay, so First, of course, you have to begin with a topical outline. So going back to the the steps in systematic research, it's best if you have an outline of how you're going to organize your topics or the content of your literature. Then you have to read and take notes. Remember, not all studies on web are in full manuscript or the entire study. Some you have to pay, some you have to rent, but all research abstracts are available. So if you're interested with the study and let's say you have to pay to get full access to the study and you don't have a budget or you don't want to pay for it, you could just look into the abstract because all the things that you need to know are in the abstract. And if you are really interested to, let's say, adapt the tool, then that's the time that you're going to buy the article or let's have access to the entire manuscript. Okay, next, avoid plagiarism. Hence, you need to cite works properly and quote only when needed. So quotation, which is copying the exact phrase in from its original source, should be done scarcely because it will turn out to be very similar if you're going to run your plagiarism check. So yeah, and citing works properly, it's important. So I will give you also tips on how to cite works from the original author. And it's also important that you need to get let's say the gist or the central theme or the central focus or the main idea when you wanted to quote not certain authors from the original work. And then, of course, because review of related literature is a collection and a summary of all those knowledge from written works, it is essential that we summarize. And summarizing elements of a related study abstract, I will give an example later on, and that will this one captures only the most important parts of the study that the reader should know so that they would have like comparison. Oh, this is what the author did. So it's kind of similar to another study I've seen because of the methodology and the findings. So yeah, it's important that we have to include all the essential elements. And then also, this is my favorite, mybib.com. This is now your reference list online tool that is free. And in the next video that I'll be uploading, I will be teaching you on how you can do or how you're going to do your reference list in mybib.com. Okay. Next. Okay. So we've mentioned about avoiding plagiarism, and one of the ways in how we can avoid plagiarism is, of course, by citing the original author while rephrasing the text. So in doing so, we need to do in-text citation or put the author into include the author in the sentence. So there are two ways we can do that. So first is your narrative or your integral citation, and the parenthetical or the non-integral citation. So integral citation, very easy. You just have to source. The source or author is part of the sentence. So it is actively included in the sentence. So for example, according to Banham 2023, constructivist learning has taken trend in the contemporary educational landscape. So this is an example of the Harvard style wherein you put the author and the year. So I would suggest the Harvard style is very friendly because it's so easy to look into your reference list, and then you give credit directly into the author of the article. And then if you're going to decide to do a parenthetical or non-integral citation, all you have to do is just to write the sentence and then put the author and the year in a parenthesis at the end of it. Okay, so it's still the same. You just don't mention, or it does not just it's not a part of the sentence. Okay. Now, I would suggest you do a combination of both. Don't just do all parenthetical citation. Try to diversify so that your literature review doesn't sound very monotonous and boring. So there should be a good combination of both narrative and parenthetical citation in your literature. Okay, now summarizing abstracts or results is crucial because you don't want to miss out important information, especially from the study. So here are the steps on how you can summarize related study abstracts and integrate them in your paper. So number one, you have to look, of course, for the author or proponent, the year of the publication, of course, to support relevancy, the type of study and research design, what is the goal of the study, the target population or subjects, the data gathering method, and just the most significant findings. In some cases, you could also include recommendations because if you are going to establish, let's say, gap, okay, study abstracts would usually mention about the limitations in their study, which is your reference for recommendation. So you could take reference on that one. And then you have to write the summary in a straightforward and logical manner. So again, this will be depending on the writing style of the author and at the same time on the on how these are being presented or written. Okay. But remember, when you write the summary or when you write your RL, you have to know your audience. So if your audience are students, make it simple, make it straightforward. Don't use highfalutin words or um be careful with your semantics and your choice of diction or the diction of the diction because it's crucial that we wanted to impart our review related literature directly into our audience and they be able to understand it and comprehend what we are writing on our RL. And then here it's also um good or beneficial if you're going to cluster study that have similar findings. Part of your organization is, of course, making it logical and making it organized. And one way to organize your RL is, of course, aside from the topic or similar topics, you have to cluster findings. So if there are findings that are similar with each other, group them together and then transition into the next paragraph that has a different findings. So there are, several ways on how you can group them together as long as you put similar thoughts in a paragraph or in one paragraph. That will be really good. Okay. And since there are several clustered findings or clustered thoughts, ideas in your RL, it is also essential and important that we use appropriate transitional devices. Again, diversify with your transitional devices, make it no, not monotonous or boring so that uh as the readers will scan through and read your RL, they be able to really connect the ideas and the concepts and the findings all together solidly. Okay. So I have here an example of how we're going to summarize or study abstract, taking only the essential parts. So example, Sumatra and Mohammed in 2022 conducted a mixed qualitative descriptive study exploring on the application of constructivist approach in learning among nursing students in Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia, integrating multiple data gathering methods such as surveys, observations, and interviews. Findings reveal that various strategies in constructivist learning have been integrated and applied in all year levels, both in didactic classroom lecture and clinical related learning experience. Nursing students are open in maximizing this approach as they are comfortable in an active approach in learning. So looking into this summary, we have your author, the year it was published, the design was also mentioned, and then the main goal of the study. Locality is also important because you wanted also to uh, emphasize that this is an international study. And then multiple data gathering methods, you mentioned about survey, observation, and interviews. And then, of course, the results. Likewise, essential findings, because this is a mixed method, we have quantity results, and of course, we have also your qualitative result. So again, the way how you're going to structure your summary depends on you. As long as it makes sense, as long as it's logical, as long as it's cohesive, then you're good. It doesn't mean that you really have to follow author here, something like that. But we usually begin with the author, and then some parts of the study are you could tweak it a little bit, but this flow is the most logical. Author, type of study, goal, methods, and results. All right. Okay, so that's it for our review of related literature. Now, I want you guys to watch the next video on how you're going to navigate through the web for your literature search via the internet. And yeah, please don't forget to like and subscribe. Thank you so much, and class dismissed.